You had any good fights in your day?
Yeah. I had a couple of good fights. I had basically, man, through this, it was a chick that I was dating, man. This girl named Ramona, man. You know, she had a real nice butt on her, and I was at her house hanging out with her brother, which was my good friend. We were working on his Monza in the garage, and she went down the street to this party over there on about 113th and Ruth Ellen, right behind Kmart, and so while she was at the party, this cat pinched her on her ass. And so she slapped the dude. And when she did that, she ended up getting into a fight with his girlfriend. So she comes down to the house and she tells me what happened. And I'm like, who pinched you on your ass? And so she said, Blackie. I'm like, Blackie? I'm like, you know what? Take your ass in the house. You shouldn't have been down here at the party, no way. I ain't fucking with Blackie, you know, over no ass pinch. But later on, I eventually did run into him, and we got into a squabble. And Blackie was a big dude, you know, and he basically whooped my ass. And so that was that fight. We got into another fight, and so in order for me to get my revenge, I rode around for a long time looking for him, and I went down to the hardware store, man, and got a axe handle. And I did find him. I found him one day and I hit him on the back with that axe handle, man. And I got my revenge. I ran and hopped back in the car. But this cat was a big dude, man. He wasn't no small dude. And, you know, just me going back and forth with him, I guess I had that, you know, that Jack Russell Terrier mentality, man. I didn't give a shit how big he was. And it was just the fact that I was listening to this bullshit coming from her mouth, and I never got caught up in that kind of crap again. But I will tell you, he eventually did get me back on a situation I had went to a party in Inglewood, and by the time I got there, one of the guys in my club, I had a '64 Chevy club called the United 64s, and he was going on his way home, and I was coming to the party. He said the party's over. The party, you know, is over. So, you know, me, I'm high off some dust, angel dust, and I ran into Earl Cobb. I saw Earl Cobb. He had a '65, and Earl lived in L.A., but I met him through another mutual friend, Anthony Sawyer, and I didn't know Earl Cobb was gangbanging. I didn't even know he was a Crip. I just thought he was a lowrider. And so I asked Earl if he knew where any parties were. And he said, yeah. So I followed him. We went to one spot to another spot. We eventually ended up on 107th and Central. And when we pulled up, he had dropped his car in the back. I had hydraulics in the front. I laid mine in the front. And I get out the car. There's a few people hanging out in the street. And so I don't, you know, I'm high off this dust, man. I don't even know where I'm at, you know, but I remembered later on. And before I knew it, man, Tookie had ran up behind me and had put me in the chokehold. But since his arms were so big, they couldn't fit like around my neck. So they was more or less on my, you know, on the side of my face. And he kind of lifted me up off the ground. And while he was doing that, somebody was ran through my pockets, man, got my car keys. So I'm steady kicking Tookie in the shins. I'm kicking him in his knees, I'm kicking him in his shins. So he eventually let me go. And that's when me and Blackie got into it. And it was a couple of other East Side Crips that jumped in it. So they put a pretty good whooping on me that night. And so the other cat that was with me, this guy, he was full of that glue, man. That was a guy named Pop Squally, but it wasn't to Pop Squally from Compton. This was a Pop Squally from Inglewood. This cat had on a red ace deuce, a red shirt, some white coveralls, like I guess like a painter would wear, overalls, and some red alligator shoes. So when we got out the car, this sucker talking about Inglewood family Crips, Inglewood family Crips. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what happened to him. I never saw him again, but I got my ass whooped that night, and they got carjacked. So I might have been the first person to ever get carjacked in LA by force. They took my shit, man. And when I got it back, it was burned up. But the way I got home, Earl Cobb gave me a ride home, and I had no idea that Cody Brown and Kenny Robinson was in the car. And when I got in the car, man, and them suckers laughed at my ass and talked shit to me the whole way, all the way to my house. Teased me, fucked with me, and hey man, you want my coat? You know, because the window was down and it was cold and I got beat up, man, so I was all bloody and shit. And they dropped me off at home, man, and that was experience for me. I never.
So what type of friendship did you have with them in order to be in a car with some Crips after you was beefing with Crips?
I looked at it like that was the whole thing. It was a setup. And I was too high to realize it.
But why they didn't do nothing to you?
They didn't do nothing to me. They just dropped me off at home because I knew them. I knew them. And I had knew Kenny, you know, from day one when I first came to Inglewood. I first came to Monroe, junior high school. So that was just one of those things, man. You know how you got some cats, man, that you know you get a pass or whatever. But I never had no run-ins with him.
Did you ever hear that Blackie was Tookie's crimey on some of those cases that Tookie ended up in jail fighting?
I heard that. To be honest, I basically heard that a couple of weeks ago, and that was my first time hearing it a couple of weeks ago. And
so you didn't know he was a rat?
I had no idea. I had no idea.
Did you know he was born in Canada?
No, I didn't know that either.
What set would you put him with back in your day?
I put him with, at that time, he was West Side Crip out of Washington. Which eventually, in that neighborhood where he lived, probably would have been neighborhood Crips.